Do you really believe that TikTok is just another innocent app for short videos? I'm sorry to say, you're being deceived. What may seem like just a sea of dances, memes, and viral challenges is, in reality, a much deeper and more dangerous machine than most people realize. Behind the colorful interface and the lightness of the videos, there is a silent manipulation engine operating on a global scale, an economic weapon disguised as entertainment. Entire governments are on alert. Investigations in the United States, Europe, and Australia have revealed that TikTok has been used to collect data en masse, influence political decisions, and shape social behaviors. We're not talking about conspiracy theories. We're talking about official reports, leaked documents, and public statements from leaders and intelligence agencies. What happens inside TikTok doesn't stay just inside TikTok. It shapes the way you think, feel, and consume. You, who are watching right now, have probably already been impacted by this weapon without even realizing it. TikTok is not just a pastime. It is a tool for informational warfare, cultural colonization, and economic domination. And whoever controls this tool controls part of the collective mind of the new generation. In this video, you will understand how this social network has become an instrument of global power. We'll show you concrete data, stunning revelations, and strategies being used to destabilize markets, influence elections, and create economic dependency. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear may completely change the way you see the digital world. And before we dive deeper, let me tell you something important. Over 90% of the people watching our videos are not subscribed to the channel yet. That's right. So, if you value content that goes beyond the surface, that exposes what's behind the curtains of the global economy, subscribe now to World Economic Pulse and turn on notifications. Here, you won't just watch. You'll understand, investigate, and reflect. Because today, more than ever, knowledge is power. And ignoring what's happening is exactly what they want you to do. TikTok emerged as an app for short, fast videos, but its global rise was anything but casual. Launched in 2016 by the Chinese company ByteDance, it quickly transcended simple entertainment to become a true cultural phenomenon. In just a few years, TikTok went from being unknown to the most downloaded app in the world, surpassing giants like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. In 2020, for example, TikTok recorded over 850 million downloads according to data from Sensor Tower, surpassing any other non-gaming app that year. But this wasn't just a marketing victory, it marked the beginning of a new era of digital domination from the East. TikTok's meteoric success was not accidental. While the West was still debating privacy issues and algorithmic limits, China had already developed an extraordinarily effective recommendation technology based on behavioral artificial intelligence. TikTok's algorithm quickly understood what each user wanted, sometimes even before the user knew themselves, and delivered content in an addictive loop. With every scroll, the user received a precise dose of dopamine, creating an almost hypnotic cycle of engagement. This level of precision not only increased the average usage time to over 90 minutes a day in some countries, but also made TikTok a direct competitor to platforms like Netflix and YouTube. What is truly impressive, however, is how TikTok managed to capture Generation Z in such a dominant way. Young people between 10 and 25 years old began using the platform as their main source of entertainment, information, and in many cases, education. The influence spread like wildfire. Unknown songs became global hits in days. Brands were born and died within weekly trends. Politicians started using the app as a campaign tool. Suddenly, TikTok was not just a dance app. It had transformed into a global cultural force. A 2022 Pew Research survey showed that 67% of American teenagers use TikTok regularly, surpassing Instagram usage and nearly matching YouTube. This shift in habits is profound and has much bigger implications than it seems. At the heart of this digital revolution is a question that few discuss: who controls the platform? Unlike Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, TikTok is not an American company. It is controlled by a Chinese company that, by law, must cooperate with the Beijing government whenever requested. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is legislation. China's National Intelligence Law, 2017, requires any company, including ByteDance, to hand over requested information to authorities. This raises an uncomfortable question. Why are billions of people around the world handing over their personal data to a company subject to the direct control of an authoritarian regime? TikTok didn't get to where it is solely by technological merit. There was a deliberate strategy behind its internationalization. In 2017, ByteDance bought the app Musical.ly, very popular among young Americans, and merged it with TikTok, thus securing a solid base in the Western market. This move allowed a quiet, almost subversive entry into homes in the US and Europe. Since then, growth has been exponential. But while everyone was watching cat videos and funny dances, few realized they were facing the most powerful digital weapon ever created by China. And it doesn't fire bullets. It fires data, culture, and influence. The true power of TikTok is not in the viral dances, but in its algorithm. A system so efficient and mysterious that it has become the subject of study at universities and the target of investigations by governments. Unlike other social networks that mostly rely on who you follow, TikTok created a recommendation model based purely on behavior, analyzing every second of interaction, how long you watch a video, if you pause it, repeat it, like it, comment on it, share it. Everything is measured in real time. The result? A feed that adapts with almost surgical precision to your mind. But the most important point here is, this algorithm is not neutral. It can be programmed to reinforce certain types of content and reduce the reach of others, meaning that TikTok can, in theory, influence the collective mood of an entire generation, shaping political, aesthetic, social, and even financial opinions. We're not just talking about cat videos versus political videos, but the real capacity to control what an entire society discusses and feels. This kind of control already has concrete examples. During the Russia-Ukraine war, several reports showed how TikTok allegedly limited pro-Ukrainian content while allowing more Kremlin-friendly narratives to circulate. TikTok defended itself by saying it follows local rules, but this pattern repeated itself in other contexts. In the United States, for example, there were reports that TikTok suppresses videos about political protests or sensitive topics while amplifying shallow or polarizing trends, raising the hypothesis that the algorithm could be used as a tool for mass distraction. But the impact goes beyond politics. TikTok also shapes economic behaviors. A clear example was the movement called #TikTokMadeMeBuyIt, where products became global bestsellers after going viral in videos. Companies began to adapt their product launches based on trends from the app. Young investors started following financial tips from anonymous creators, making investment decisions based on 15-second videos. This is not influence, it's consumer engineering. If a foreign government had the ability to influence the consumption habits, emotions, and political opinions of millions of citizens in another country, it would be considered an act of psychological warfare. With TikTok, this influence happens smoothly, funnily, and addictively. It's as if the world had been seduced by a magic mirror, and behind this mirror is a regime with very well-defined interests. Perhaps the most disturbing detail of this entire story is the difference between the TikTok used in the West and the version used within China. While young Brazilians, Americans, and Europeans spend hours watching dance videos, memes, and risky challenges, Chinese teenagers access Douyin, the local TikTok, with a completely different algorithm. There, the most promoted content is educational, scientific, and patriotic. You heard that right. The same app, created by the same company, offers completely opposite experiences depending on your geolocation. While in the West, the algorithm encourages consumption, superficiality, and distraction, in China it reinforces academic performance, national pride, and intellectual development. In fact, the usage time is controlled. For minors under 14 years old, Douyin limits screen time to 40 minutes per day and only works between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. In contrast, global TikTok seems to have no limits, a true dopamine machine running 24 hours a day. This raises an uncomfortable question. Why does China educate its population digitally while entertaining the rest of the world to the point of alienation? Billionaire Chamath Palihapitiya, former Facebook executive, has already commented that TikTok is doing what no missile or economic weapon has achieved, reducing productivity, self-esteem, and focus for millions of young people in the West while preserving and strengthening its own youth. More than just a social network, TikTok may be used as a strategic tool for soft power, a silent, long-term weapon that directly shapes the next generation of consumers, citizens, and leaders outside of China. It's no coincidence that governments such as those of the US, India, and the European Union are debating or have already taken steps to ban or regulate the app. Have you ever stopped to think that the new Cold War might be happening right in your pocket? Unlike traditional wars, which use tanks and soldiers, the conflict between powers now revolves around platforms, data, and algorithms. TikTok is a central piece on this chessboard. And we're not talking about conspiracy theories. In 2020, the former president of the US, Donald Trump, attempted to ban TikTok from the country. The justification? A threat to national security. The fear was that the app was collecting data from American citizens and passing it on to the Chinese government. In 2023, the issue resurfaced with force. The US Congress demanded explanations from ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok, about the platform's data structure. The response was unconvincing. And because of this, several countries began restricting the use of TikTok on government employees' devices, including Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom. Why so much fear? Because data is the new oil, and attention control is the new strategic weapon. If you can direct what millions of people see, think, and buy, you dominate behaviors, elections, culture, and the economy. And in this scenario, TikTok acts as a tool for massive influence, disguised as entertainment. The impact is so serious that the app has already been banned in more than 30 US states for government employees, and TikTok's CEO, Shouzi Chu, was summoned to the US Congress to provide clarifications. Additionally, productivity indices and mental health levels among teenagers are being analyzed by researchers as a potential side effect of prolonged exposure to the platform. Therefore, what might seem like just a fun app could, in practice, be functioning as a silent weapon of economic, cultural, and political wear and tear. And the most curious thing? Most people have no idea about it. TikTok may seem like just a platform for dance videos and viral challenges, but behind the feed lies a sophisticated structure for data collection, behavior manipulation, and global influence. In a world where attention has become currency and information is the primary vector of power, controlling algorithms is like having an invisible army at your disposal. It's not about being against or in favor of TikTok, but about understanding the geopolitical game we're part of. If in the past countries competed for colonies, oil, or trade routes, today they compete for our attention, our data, and our consumption decisions. We're living in an era where the war is algorithmic, the weapon is content, and the battlefield is your phone. And while we dance on TikTok, someone is profiting and perhaps planning with every move we make. So, what now? Tell me in the comments, do you think TikTok is just another social network or really a geopolitical tool? If you liked this content, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and activate the bell. Here at World Economic Pulse, we translate the complexity of the world into videos that make you think. See you in the next episode. Hugs, World Economic Pulse.